A fatal accident involving a prosecutor occurred in the Lviv region. A 14-year-old girl died and her 10-year-old brother is in the hospital. The accident happened near the village of Smerkiv. The driver was detained in the evening. Locals say that the stretch of road where the tragedy occurred is very dangerous because there are ongoing repairs, drivers do not slow down before the pedestrian crossing, and it is difficult to cross the highway. Marichka Kuzhik visited the scene of the accident and is ready to tell us more. This is the Lviv-Rava-Ruska highway where the accident happened, and road repairs are currently underway here. It has been widened and made into 4 lanes, so the traffic is quite busy and fast, and although there are temporary signs and speed limits, as we can see, drivers do not slow down. There are still car debris lying on the roadside. Crossing the highway here is quite a challenge, locals say.
We stood for 20 minutes and not a single car stopped. It's like to cross here, it's impossible.
While the repairs are ongoing, there should be some signs, there should be some lights, there should be something like that. Well, the road workers know best themselves. There are too few crosswalks, you can't see anything, it's dark, and...
As we can see, cars really don't stop. One car speeds by, then a second, a third, and only the 4th driver brakes in front of the women. It was at this very crosswalk that the accident happened, in which a 14-year-old girl died and her brother ended up in intensive care. At the school where the children studied, there is a photo with a black ribbon, a candle is burning, and next to it is the school bell. Classmates and teachers say they still can't believe the girl is gone. This
child was very, very dear to me. This was her seat. She always sat here. I don't know if there was ever a child as energetic as she was. She was so small, so tiny, but her presence was felt everywhere.
This accident happened the day before near the village of Smerkiv. It was dark, around 7 in the evening. The children who were trying to cross the road were hit by a car driven by a 25-year-old prosecutor. The impact was so strong that the girl died on the spot, and her 10-year-old brother was hospitalized with severe injuries.
Our practical psychologist lives in Lviv, not far from the hospital. She stayed with Matvey, the boy, by his side the whole night. We are all worried and praying for his recovery.
The fatal accident was immediately addressed by the prosecutor general. Ruslan Kravchenko reported on social media that the driver was tested for alcohol intoxication and was sober. The case is being investigated by the State Bureau of Investigation.
The car, driven by a 25-year-old prosecutor from the Sheptytsky District Prosecutor's Office of Lviv region, hit 2 minors. The brother and sister were crossing the road at a pedestrian crossing. The incident has been classified as a violation of traffic safety rules that resulted in the death of the victim.
The children say in the village they often cross the road right here because there is a bus stop nearby where school children take the bus to the nearest town for extracurricular activities. The deceased used to take her brother there to his tutor.
She would go to Zhovkva to pick him up and bring him home. A terrible event. The local residents who had just stepped off the bus suddenly saw the young girl lying there on the road, and then they heard the injured boy groaning loudly on the other side of the street.
I feel so sorry, truly sorry. A good family, the girl was wonderful, and the boy is a good kid. The mother, she works at the kindergarten. The father is at the front, poor man, I don't know, it's such a tragedy.
Even though the road repairs are ongoing and more expensive, that's what the service says. Restoration of infrastructure. Speed limit signs have been installed and the pedestrian crossing is also marked.
At the section where this terrible traffic accident happened, at the entrance to the village of Smerkiv, there are also signs 150 meters away on both sides and in the direction both from Zhovkva and towards Lviv. Such signs have been installed.
The road will be under repair for another year, according to the service. And then crossing the road will become safer.
After the repair work is completed, lighting will be installed here. There will be a pedestrian island at the crosswalk, so you won't have to cross the entire road at once. The traffic light is not planned for this section.
The driver, who is from Koyev, the driver involved in the accident has been detained and faces up to 8 years in prison. The deceased girl will be buried in the coming days. Marichka Kuzhik, Andriy Popovich, Lviv region, TSN 1+1. An 18-year-old woman from Kharkiv, who may be involved in the terrorist attack with casualties in Lviv, has been notified of suspicion. The police and the security service of Ukraine believe that it was she who lured the patrol crew to the scene with a false report about an alleged break-in at a store. She wanted to earn $100 for this. They called from Kharkiv and her handler dictated what she was supposed to say. When the police officers arrived at the scene, Russian terrorists remotely detonated an improvised explosive device. The second explosion occurred when several more crews arrived as reinforcements. At that moment, a 23-year-old policewoman was killed, Victoria Shpilka. More than 20 other people were injured. A resident of Kurivnikchina, who, following instructions from a Russian handler, made the explosive device and planted it at the site where the terrorist attack was planned, has already been placed in custody by the court for 2 months. The recent arrest of the logistics commander of the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine and the head of the SBU office in Zhytomyr region exposed the embezzlement of defense budget funds. According to the investigator, the suspects organized a scheme by which they appropriated money during the construction of fortification structures. This concerns the installation of additional protection at strategically important sites, in particular at SOB airfields. Last year, 1.4 billion hryvnias were allocated for the construction of special shelters. However, inspections revealed that the projects do not meet requirements and do not provide adequate protection for the aircraft, and the cost of the work was inflated. To stop the inspections and cover up the embezzlement, officials, according to the investigator, organized the transfer of a bribe of approximately 13 million hryvnias. The Security Service of Ukraine detained both individuals during the handover of $320,000. Now they face up to 12 years behind bars. The Russians struck a civilian car with a drone in the Velikopisarivska community in the Sumy region. A state emergency service rescuer who was returning from duty died from his injuries. One person was killed and the fate of another remains unknown in the Zaporizhzhia region. During the day, the enemy attacked the frontline town of Orikhiv with artillery. Houses were destroyed. With this strike, the Russians killed a pensioner. The enemy also bombed the Sinelnikivsky district of Dnipropetrovsk region with air-dropped bombs. In the Pokrovska community, private houses were damaged. 2 local residents died under the rubble of their own homes. 5 people were injured. And in the village of Prosyana, a search operation is ongoing. There, a bomb destroyed the entrance of a 3-story building. There may be 4 people under the rubble. There are also victims in the Vasilkivska community. The occupiers sent a swarm of drones there. 2 people were injured this morning in Kherson. A drone attacked the car in which a man and a woman were traveling. They were hospitalized with blast injuries. Also at dawn, the occupiers shelled the shipyard district of the city. Once again, they fired at residential neighborhoods. And the day before, a utility worker did not survive the Russian shelling. Another 9 city residents were injured. The Russians dropped 3 guided aerial bombs on the private sector of Druzhkivka. This is already Donetsk region. They destroyed 10 homes. 2 residents required medical assistance. And 1 more person was injured by drones in Osikove. The Verkhovna Rada has strengthened support for critical infrastructure workers affected by Russian attacks. The bill was supported by 293 members of parliament. Speaker Ruslan Stefanchuk immediately signed the document for sending it to the president for signature. This concerns firefighters, energy workers, railway workers, doctors, utility workers, communication specialists, and other professionals who were injured or killed while performing their professional duties. The document expands the list of people eligible for one-time assistance. It clarifies the list of family members of the deceased and also improves the mechanism for assigning payments. In particular, children of deceased workers will be entitled to state assistance if they are studying, and this will continue until they reach 23 years old. The adopted bill allows for assistance even to those who have already received other compensation after May 2023. Compensation can be requested during martial law and for 3 years after it ends. Additionally, payments must be reviewed in the event of an increase in the disability group. Strategic partnership and joint energy projects. The President of Ukraine met with the Prime Minister of Norway. This year, Oslo is allocating more than $8 billion in financial and security assistance to Kyiv. This is 20% of all the support received from other countries. Norway is also providing systems and infrastructure for NASAM's air defense complexes, and last year they contributed nearly $970 million to the program. Purchases of American weapons. What helped to receive the packages more quickly? PAC-3, Zelenskyy announced this. And only these missiles are capable of shooting down ballistic targets, the number of which increased this winter. At today's meeting, the main focus was on energy partnership. The leaders agreed that the energy ministers of both countries would develop a joint agreement on cooperation in this field. Because in addition to military support, Norway consistently helps with gas procurement and equipment repairs. Overall, Norway's energy package already amounts to $1.7 billion.
We thank your government and your people, first and foremost. We have had strong support from Norway. It was gas, because when they destroyed our energy infrastructure, we still had gas. Sometimes we used more gas due to electricity shortages, and we received this additional gas mostly from Norway. Of course, we also had some other contracts. We worked with the EBRD and other partners, but we received help from you almost immediately, just as I had requested.
Energy states, we had cooperation in the past, and now we can work on rebuilding, strengthening, and repairing the energy infrastructure in Ukraine. We did this together with our European partners, and we are also ready to finance gas purchases that can be stored in the storage facilities here in Ukraine to provide this element of stability in the continuous provision of energy to industrial sectors.
All the released Flamingos have reached the Votkinsk plant in Russia. The president of Ukraine called this a success. Although some missiles were shot down over the Russian air defense facility, the rest of the enemy targets were hit at a distance of 1,400 kilometers. The attack took place on the night of February 21st. Our missile forces struck the missile plant in the Udmurt Republic with FP-5 cruise missiles. According to the General Staff, this enterprise produces intercontinental ballistic missiles of the YARs, YARSS, YARSM types, as well as a number of other ballistic missiles. Whether we will be able to increase the number of such strikes directly depends on our production of Flamingo missiles. And this is not easy, as the Russians are hunting for them, Zelenskyy stated. He also did not give a clear answer as to whether we have already managed to achieve the desired serial production of our long-range weapons.
They're hunting for the production of Flamingo. As I said, we had to wait a long time. Renovations of the production line were needed due to corresponding Russian attacks. They will increase the quantity. This depends on money and certain components. Depending on the quantity, we will have more successful strikes. Because, let me put it this way, I won't say how many Flamingos were used this time, I just want to say that there were shoot-downs by Russian air defense, there were some that weren't shot down, and there were direct hits. But the most important thing is that all the missiles that were launched, all of them reached their target.
The first Ukrainian drone manufacturing plant will begin operations in the United Kingdom. This was announced by Ukraine's ambassador to the UK, Volodymyr Zelenskyy. According to him, the decision to launch the production facility of the company Ukrspex Systems abroad was driven by security risks for Ukrainian industry. This is due to regular missile strikes and damage to infrastructure. At the same time, the engineering and development base remains in Ukraine. For the British side, this means access to technologies that have been tested in combat conditions, as well as new jobs. For Ukraine, it provides more stable production conditions and the ability to plan ahead, the ambassador concluded. Parliament passed the law on social protection for military personnel on the second attempt. It was supported by 284 deputies. The law stipulates that the 15 million hryvnias that families received in the event of a defender's death will now also include the salary of a service member who was considered missing in action, which was paid to families during the period when the soldier had the status of missing. Before this law was implemented, families received the military salary in the amount of 100,000 hryvnias, while the service member was considered missing, and when they were officially declared dead, an additional 15 million was paid. Initially, a lump sum of 3 million was paid, and then 300,000 each month for the next 40 months. Now it is 15 million. This is now the maximum amount of assistance from the state. So, in the event that the death of these individuals is confirmed, the one-time assistance will take into account the monetary payments already made during their service. Missing in action, that is, the total amount of these payments together with the one-time assistance will not exceed the 15 million hryvnias established by law. The law still needs to be signed by the president. An offensive operation near Stepnohirsk. The main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine has released footage showing how fighters from the special unit Artan, together with intelligence officers from other units, carried out offensive actions in the Zaporizhzhia region. It is reported that there they have already managed to regain control over important positions, destroy the enemy's forward assault groups, strike at equipment and concentrations of Russian army personnel, as well as cut key logistical arteries, which prevents the enemy from launching assaults on this section of the front. Meanwhile, according to deep state analysts, the Russians have advanced near Nikiforivka and are increasing pressure on other settlements. In the Kramatorsk direction, the Eastern Group of Forces notes that the occupiers continue to use the tactic of infiltration by small groups and disregard their losses. In their own manpower, analysts from the American Institute for the Study of War note that the advances of the Russian army remain limited, while Ukrainian forces are counterattacking and, in some areas, achieving local successes. This is evidenced by geolocation data. In total, there were 164 combat engagements along the entire front line over the past day. The majority of them occurred in the Pokrovsk and Hulyapol directions. Donald Trump almost completely ignored the topic of the war in Ukraine in his traditional annual address to Congress. The main topics were the economy and the security of American borders. Moreover, the United States tried to remove from the Ukrainian resolution at the UN the points regarding territorial integrity and internationally recognized borders, and a just peace based on international law, because allegedly this hinders the current situation to the negotiation process. But the General Assembly did not accept this proposal and, by an overwhelming majority, supported the Ukrainian resolution about the intrigue at the UN and how the 4th anniversary of the full-scale war was commemorated in New York. Next, Olga Koshelenko.
Regarding the maneuver by the United States at the UN, namely the intention to remove from the Ukrainian resolution for the 4th anniversary of the full-scale invasion, the points about respect for territorial integrity and a just peace for Ukraine based on international law, this became known literally 15 minutes before the start of the session. Before this, American diplomats had not expressed any reservations during consultations with their Ukrainian colleagues. They submitted their resolution, already taking into account the current state of affairs and the position of their partners, so they focused on the main call for an immediate ceasefire, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine Mariana Betsa told TSN. She flew to New York for the session of the General Assembly. And the sudden change in mood of the American colleagues just minutes before the meeting was surprising. These issues distract from the negotiations, explained the representative of the United States. U.S. President Donald Trump, as is known, has repeatedly stated that for a peace agreement, Ukraine would have to agree to a so-called territorial exchange. In essence, the surrender of Donbas to Russia.
The United States, of course, welcomes the call for an immediate ceasefire. As we have said, this resolution contains wording that could distract from the ongoing negotiations rather than support discussion of the full range of diplomatic avenues that could pave the way to a lasting peace. Right now, what is needed to end the war is political will. We believe that we are closer to an agreement than at any other time since the beginning of this war.
A response had to be made instantly. Ukraine called for the rejection of the American proposals. They were put to a separate vote, and 11 countries sided with the United States. Among them are Russia, Belarus, Hungary, Israel, and several African countries. The Ukrainian resolution, meanwhile, received even more votes than last year. 107 in favor. After the vote, Mariana Betsa is congratulated, and partners shake her hand.
Ukraine is ready for peace. We have never refused peaceful negotiations. We participate constructively. We are even ready for certain compromises, but we are not ready to compromise on our sovereignty and territorial integrity. With all due respect to the American delegation, we undoubtedly voted against it because this is a red line for Ukraine.
The President of the United States practically ignored the war in Ukraine in his traditional address to Congress. Among the invited guests was the mother of Irina Zarutska, a Ukrainian refugee who was killed, who became an accidental victim of a mentally ill American. Donald Trump promised the grieving mother justice for her daughter. But as for the country that has entered its 5th year of bloody war, there were only 2 sentences. We
are working hard to end the 9th war. The killing in Russia and Ukraine, where 25,000 soldiers die every month. Just think about it. A war that would never have happened if I were president. It would never have happened.
Ukrainians in New York marked the 4th anniversary of the full-scale invasion with a rally in Times Square. The crowd was mostly women and children. And Yulia, originally from Mariupol, fled from there in the first days of the occupation and evacuated her parents. But my heart stayed there.
Orphans, all of us, everyone in Mariupol understands me now. Today was a very sentimental day. I really want to go home. I hope that someday we will go back. Unfortunately, our house is gone, but I still want to walk down our streets.
A man with a distinctly Ukrainian name, Sviatoslav, is an American born in New York. On his shoulders is a flag signed by Ukrainian soldiers whom he and his friends are helping.
I help, I do what I can, I send drones. But as for America not helping, I've already made my peace with that. Now Ukraine has to help itself.
I
have already come to terms with it. I come twice a year, but my partner is constantly going to the east. These are soldiers. Kraken, they all died, so I wear this in their honor. In all our glory we continue to rhyme. And in all our glory we rhyme together.
Pure glory and eternal honor.
From New York, United States, Olya Koshelenko, Maxim Shenkaranko, TSN 1+1.
This is political pressure and preparation for negotiations. Volodymyr Zelenskyy explained Putin's latest nuclear threats. He called the statements from the Kremlin a dangerous play on words and urged partners who possess nuclear weapons to respond. The president said this at a joint press conference with the Prime Minister of Norway. He also responded, calling these insinuations unacceptable. A new scare tactic? The Russians once again spread this nuclear weapons scare the day before. The Foreign Intelligence Service of the Russian Federation accused the United Kingdom and France of planning to provide Kiev with a dirty bomb containing nuclear weapons. Of course, there is no evidence of this. Then the Russian Federation's representative to the UN, Vasily Nebenzia, repeated the same claim at a Security Council meeting. He was told in response by representatives from London and Paris that this was blatant lies and disinformation. The spokesperson for the British Prime Minister emphasized that Moscow is trying to divert attention from its own crimes in this way. But that's not all. It's no coincidence that such fake stories started to appear after public discussions in Europe about expanding nuclear deterrence.
Usually, when Russia fails to win on the battlefield, they start looking for nuclear weapons on Ukrainian territory. There are no nuclear weapons in Ukraine, unfortunately. Therefore, I think this is preparation both for the upcoming trilateral meetings and as a form of political pressure. Furthermore, there is a significant amount of detailed information that has surfaced across various international media outlets regarding the specific perspectives and concerns held by European nations concerning the nuclear umbrella. So, it is quite possible that this is just empty rhetoric, representing a calculated strategic method for the Russian government to respond to the current situation. It seems to me that it's always dangerous. They are playing with these words.
Do you believe in Kremlin fakes? Be sure to write about it in the comments to this broadcast on YouTube. And of course, give us a like and subscribe to the channel. In the meantime, I will continue with the TSN broadcast. A resident of Zaporizhzhia tried to get a job at a defense plant in order to spy for the Russians. Pretending to be looking for a suitable vacancy, he came for an interview and immediately started asking about the security system of the restricted facility. He then tried to obtain information about the presence of anti-drone nets inside and air defense systems around the perimeter of the industrial zone. In addition, he photographed the facades of other enterprises that fulfill defense contracts. He stored the collected information on his smartphone and used it to prepare agent reports. SBU cyber specialists detained the traitor. He is in custody and could face a life sentence. Mass poisoning in Lviv. Nearly 30 people were hospitalized, 20 of them children. In 3 patients, norovirus infection has already been confirmed, which spreads through contaminated food, water, and dirty surfaces. All the victims had eaten at a children's entertainment center. Specialists from the State Service of Ukraine on Food Safety and Consumer Protection have already collected samples of food, prepared dishes, and water there. The administration of the entertainment center announced on their social media page that the establishment will be closed until March 1st and assured that they are cooperating with the regulatory authorities. The police have opened a criminal case on the grounds of violating sanitary regulations. A metal rod pierced the brain and stopped behind the eye. In Dnipro, Ukrainian and American neurosurgeons, thank you, saved a severely wounded soldier. An enemy Shahed drone exploded next to him. His comrades managed to quickly evacuate the wounded man to the medics, but his condition was rapidly deteriorating. To save not only his life but also his sight and ability to move and speak, the international team operated on Dmytro under a microscope for 5 hours. Our Olga Pavlovska witnessed the results of these incredible efforts.
Even in the intensive care unit, and on the third day after the severe injury, the results were already astonishing.
All the hands, the leg, the arm. There was nothing at all.
And even his vision is returning, the doctors are pleased to say.
Everything is in twos.
If you can see now, it means that starting tomorrow, the swelling will go down, and there's every chance that your vision will recover.
Here is this metal bolt, which was left after the Shahed drone explosion nearby. It simply pierced through the brain, Dimitros.
The entry point was right here, from this direction. It stopped near the orbit and settled by the optic nerve, right here. So the fragments were pressing on the optic nerve.
They operated for 5 hours under a microscope. American and Ukrainian neurosurgeons worked together in Dnipro to save Dmytro.
We hope that his vision won't get any worse, and perhaps it might even start to improve. A bolt from a slit lamp. There were shards of broken glass and tiny wooden splinters everywhere. All of this delicate work was performed under the lens of a high-powered microscope, handled with extreme care and precision so as not to cause any additional injury to the subject.
He had no idea that not only local doctors, but also doctors from overseas would be saving his life and his eyesight. Wounded Dmytro didn't even suspect it, and now he has special patches from an American neurosurgeon. As a keepsake, the serviceman from Cherkasy, who has been defending Ukraine for almost 3 years. He recalls the day when he and his comrade were wounded.
Shade, impact. That's all there was, that's all I remember. The hit was on my side, not his. He was the driver. I was on this side, the passenger side. It was a bit easier for him. They rushed over, helped, treated the wounds. We waited together with them for the evacuation and then left.
This is already the 4th time for the medical mission in Dnipro. Professor Rocco Armonda from Washington, together with his American colleagues, is striving to help wounded Ukrainians.
This hospital is one of the busiest in the world. We are here to learn, to assist, to help side by side. We learn from each other.
Dmytro from Dnipro. This is already the 34th. The patient, operated on together with Ukrainian colleagues, is already recovering. At home, his mother, wife, and first-grade daughter are waiting for him. The doctors are confident that after the surgery, the man will see his loved ones. Grigory Pavlovsky, Alexander Kulish, Dnipro, TSN 1+1.
A birthday with the strong-spirited Lesya Ukrainka as an alternative to March 8th. Today, Ukraine is celebrating Ukrainian Women's Day. Here is a video released by the State Border Guard Service of Ukraine about their female colleagues. But this is about all Ukrainian women. During the full-scale invasion, all the qualities of the modern Ukrainian woman have manifested themselves with even greater strength. They combine motherhood with service. In the military, they become the best in professions that were once considered male. They create, inspire, and protect. But they also continue to fight for equal rights and against gender-based discrimination. The holiday is still unofficial. The parliamentary initiative to establish February 25th as Ukrainian Women's Day has not yet been voted on. However, it is becoming increasingly popular, with greetings spreading across social networks. Users are posting hundreds of messages with pictures, well wishes, and words of gratitude to Ukrainian women.